Today's Thursday. Good Thursday, everyone. Y'all, I called it. I freaking called it. Bryan Kohberger being in 1122 King Road House before the unalivings. I knew it. Oh, I I love being right. Let's see here. So Brian Enton does an interview with Cy. He was on Brian's the heck, my dog just like zoomed out of here real fast. He was on Brian's defense team or whatever. He does an interview with him and Steve Gonalves, and I think Olivia gets on. I've watched just a little bit, but I was like, no, I got to talk about this so you guys can get my full reaction. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I called it. I knew Brian had been in that house before because it took him 4 minutes to unalive whatever or however many minutes. For somebody who supposedly doesn't know the layout of the house, he got around it pretty fast. So, but let's get into it because this is going to be a little bit long.
Who was working on the case on the inside and has really unique information and data to back it up that I hadn't heard before. So I'm going to get into all of it. Again, it's a long convo, but I think you guys will find it interesting, especially in light of everything going on with Bryan Kohberger now saying that he's innocent. So I want you guys to hear the whole thing in this episode of Bryan Enton Investigates.
Cy, it's nice to see you, Steve. Thank you for being here as always. And I know Olivia's going to join us in a little bit. She's dealing with the baby. But I wanted to continue this conversation from the time you just had on News Nation. And I know, Steve, that you wanted an opportunity, you and Olivia wanted an opportunity to be able to talk to Cy about some of the information that he has since he was a defense witness for Bryan Kohberger. I just wanted to ask one question before I throw it over to Steve, though, and it kind of plays off some of what you said on News Nation, Cy. You talked about Bryan Kohberger potentially being at the house before. Can you elaborate on that a little more? I mean, are you able to, and I know it's not exact, but are you able to say whether he was actually in?
If you haven't seen this, I kind of skipped through the beginning of Brian's introduction because he does give away another bombshell. But we'll hear about the bombshell in this one.
Inside the house?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be a little bit more responsive on these questions and drag it out a little bit. So if I'm going on and on, stop me.
Yeah, you can do that on this. We have unlimited time, so feel free.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
Yeah, and 100%, like I'll make myself available to the family, by the way, 24/7. Like if you guys have follow-up questions going forward, by all means. When I heard that you guys wanted to have this conversation, I actually it meant a lot to me, and I was like, oh, finally I can talk to the victim's family, because I've spent my entire career advocating for victims' families. I've done a lot of stuff with parents of murdered children, and this is a.
Now that I think about it, I'm like sitting here thinking, I'm like, I don't know this guy's face, but I recognize the name. He's in the book. I bought the book. I did go through, if you want to go back through a couple of my past lives, I did go through the book and I picked out all of like the crucial information. And his name, now that I think about it, I'm like, who the hell is this Cy guy? He is in the Broken Plea book. And he does give a lot more information than what we actually know.
Very hard place that it started out trying to be at. And I really appreciate you guys reaching out. And anytime you have questions, I'll give you my direct number. By all means, feel free. You guys can hit me up anytime.
Thank you.
But what I want to cover on that piece is, when we start looking at the house itself, there's a couple different things we can look at. AT&T has a very specific report, and it's called Lokdebor. And I know it sounds like a silly word. It's LOCDBOR, Lokdebor, and it's location database of record. This will include estimated latitude and longitudes, and they range from 25 meters out to 3,000, 30,000 meters, so they can get very big. Historically, there's accuracy issues with this report. So if you just take all the data and you throw it on the map and you think that's accurate, you're going to have a lot of problems. A really good example in this case is there's a time when Bryan goes up to Seattle, and one of his Lokdebor hits shows him in New Orleans. So that gives you an idea of the accuracy issues. There's two factors, and like I said, I'm going to pile on a lot of data for you guys. The next thing that comes into play is the actual handset, the phone itself. iPhone actually restricts a lot of third-party apps and even the mobile carrier to some points of getting precise location data, which a lot of people don't realize. If I try to ping a phone, that phone ping can actually be screwed up by Apple itself to instead of getting this nice, neat little GPS, I get this 5,000 meter GPS range, and you can be anywhere in that 5,000 meters. Samsung, on the other hand, is a very chatty phone. It's preloaded with all kinds of silly apps and ridiculous monitoring. If anybody's ever had a Samsung, when you first power that thing up, like there's 100 apps on
There
that
is
thing.
for you iPhone users.
It's good for law enforcement because when we get a phone that's a Samsung phone, it's typically very chatty on the network. We're going to see a lot more connectivity. Samsung's also unique that if I do certain things with certain apps that require location data, such as GPS or navigation, that accuracy from the 3,000 or the 5,000 meter ranges come down to 25 meters. And in this particular case, if you look at the
Did you just hear what he said? Let me rewind it just a little bit.
Samsung, on the other hand, is a very chatty phone.
Okay,
It's
we'll
preloaded with all kinds of silly apps and ridiculous monitoring. If anybody's ever had a Samsung, when you first power that thing up, like there's 100 apps on that thing.
Hold on.
It's good for law enforcement because when we get a phone that's a Samsung phone, it's typically very chatty on the network. We're going to see a lot more connectivity. Samsung's also
Real quick, and a lot more connectivity on a Samsung phone. So with all of the data and the apps, because on the Samsung we always got to give permission for these apps for like location permission or whatever. So Samsung phone is better to have if you are a victim because it'll show more location based closer to that spot.
unique that if I do certain things with certain apps that require location data, such as GPS or navigation, that accuracy from the 3,000 or the 5,000 meter ranges come down to 25 meters.
Okay, so the accuracy comes down to 25 meters on a Samsung phone. I'm pretty sure Brian had a Samsung phone.
And in this particular case, if you look at those precise measurements, there's probably 5 that land directly on what would be the living room of the house. Like the latitude
His phone, 5 different instances land directly on the house. 5. So that means he's been there a minimum of 5 times prior to this.
longitude is the physical house itself. And if you put the house back on the map and you map those, the hits are inside the house. Now,
Let me just
That's crazy. Because with all the parties, I was assuming that he had been inside that house. They always had those huge parties. There's always tons of people there. People, if you've ever been to a house party, people roam around. I know I did because I wanted to see what the house looked like. That was a good opportunity. And this whole, if they didn't know you, they kicked you out thing. Oh, no. Because once you hit a certain point of being intoxicated, you don't care.
I'm going to let you keep explaining. I just want to make sure I understand correctly. So, because I haven't heard this before. So you're saying based on the data you saw, the latitude longitude for Brian Kohberger's Samsung was in the living room?
the AT&T derived latitude longitude from the AT&T's network that it estimates a location, it lands in the house. And it's a 25 meter range. So, we're talking 75 feet. So it could be anywhere in the house on any floor. It could technically be outside the house. It could be on the property, but it's showing in the immediate area.
See? And like I said earlier in the live, like, he moved around that house too fast for supposedly never being inside the house before. He's been there before. I knew it.
My personal opinion is when I look at those and I map what's happening before and after, and I'm looking at all the other evidence, I think these are accurate locations. And that's and to Steve's point earlier, this is why court, I think, is so critical for this case. That's an argument to be had in front of the jury where the defense would come in and say, hey, you can't reliably say this, and the prosecution would say, here's why. When done right, I feel that they're reliable.
So when you say accurate locations, you mean you believe based on your expertise that he was inside the house on previous occasions?
So I'll qualify a handful of things tonight. And again, Steve, any questions that later on, by all means, hit me up. I'm more than happy to pour over anything you want to. One of the things the defense did with me early on in this case is they got outside of the geolocation data and they said, hey, as a former homicide cop, as a homicide sergeant, as a supervisor that supervises these type of investigations, we're interested in anything you can find. And they poured tons of data over. Why that's important too is it's not just the phone stuff. There's a lot of stuff inside the crime scene and things that I reviewed in the crime scene. I 100% believe that the offender, who is Bryan Kohberger, like there is no alternative theory in my head.
Okay, keep in mind, this guy was on Bryan's defense team. He was on his team. He was one of the lawyers. And this guy's saying that he 100% believes Bryan is the person.
At this point, he's been in the house before. I think there's absolutely no doubt he was familiar with the basic layout of the house. I'm not saying he was intimately familiar with the entire house, but he had a working knowledge of the house. That house is laid out very weird. I've been through the house. The path that was taken, what we see is what occurred in that house, him coming and going from the neighborhood. There's prior knowledge. There's no doubt in my mind that there's prior knowledge. So that also helps support.
See, this is what I've been saying. I've said this from when this began. He has been inside that house. He knew the layout. He knew the area. He knew where to park. He knew which door to go in and out of. The quickest way in, quickest way out. He knew it all. This was 100% premeditated.
Some of this. One thing I want to kind of circle back to, Bryan, and Steve, you'll find this in my report, and it took me weeks to get the defense to allow me to put this in my report. They didn't want me to put it in there. There are third-party databases that collect what is called MAID ID, so mobile advertiser ID. And you guys have all experienced this where you've searched for, I don't know, a pair of shoes. You've Googled a new pair of shoes you think you wanted. And then 2 days later, you're surfing the internet and some ads are popping up for those shoes.
Yeah, that's super.
That's based on your mobile advertiser ID. It's a unique number, but there's third-party databases that collect that. And typically when they're collecting that type of information, it gets a latitude, longitude stamp with a timestamp. So we can actually see. Law enforcement can access those databases. You have to have a search warrant. There's a process to go through. In my report, what you'll find is it's towards the very end of it. I actually lay out that, hey, there's more than reasonable suspicion here to believe that this phone has been inside the residence or very close to the residence on these dates. Typical criminal investigation, we would go look at these third-party databases, pull all the mobile advertiser ID data from those dates. Forget the 13th. His phone is off. We're never going to get his phone in or near the house on the 13th, and that's where all the focus was. But if we go back to pattern of life and we pull these other dates leading up to the crime, I feel incredibly confident that they're going to get precise GPS. Now I'm talking 3 meters. So now we're talking less than 10 feet at, around, and very close to the house on these different occasions. The idea that I put this in my report and said, this is the kind of follow-up I would expect to have, and nobody ever, I fully expected as soon as I dropped that report that January, that by February, March, we were going to see discovery on this new data. They didn't even look at it. They didn't even bother with it. It's incredible.
If they looked at it, they wouldn't have understood it. We heard that in court when they were talking about a JSON file and how you can edit it and how like that was some kind of weird anomaly. It's like that's what the file's for. That's what you use it for. I mean, it was very confusing to the audience, but the lack of knowledge inside that courtroom at certain times was very frustrating to me. And
man,
I mean, I wouldn't hire my own people. I would Shadow Dragon. I've said it multiple times. They have OS lint. They were like, Steve, the same emails they're using in this court case are the same emails we're tracking back to your children. But we're not doing it for free. They weren't like a Cyray. They're like, I think there was a 30K. Don't quote me on that, but I that's what my mind wants to tell me. It was like a 30K. And they said, we're not giving it up on a case this big. We keep doing, because we're highly in demand. We're not going to take a case this big and not get stiffed with the payment. We're not making that our message.
Are you fucking serious? This is what these people told them? This was a huge case and still is. They should take the case, not be like, we want $30,000 up front. I think at one point, a couple days ago, Steve told Bryan that it cost him $8 million. So let that sink in. It's lawyers are nothing but a money game. That's all it is. And the lawyers that represented these people, the parents, they knew how much money they were gonna make. They knew. Oh, they did.
But they literally said, we can literally tell you that he's been connected to these people through his fingerprint of his emails and the things that he was doing online. It's a whole science that they have out there, and touch points, and they put it all together. He was very confident, and he said they're refusing to give me any money. They want to do it for free. And to that point, the Cellbrite, the Barnharts ended up didn't have to do it, but they did it for free, just like Cyrus. So there was these decisions being made, not over the right decision. It was, I don't know what it was, but evidence was being missed in a case that the world was watching, and we can do better. We can learn from our mistakes, and we can do better, and that's why we're here right now.
And Steve, if you think about it, let's push that price up to 50K. When you look at the amount of money that was spent on this investigation and bang for the buck, spend the 50K. It's probably the best you're going to spend on this case, because it's going to show that I think those concrete connections. I do have a question. I think you guys might be interested in this. I believe that the girls went to the A&W. There's a little A&W and a little store.
I know exactly. Yeah, right down the street.
I think this was a pretty routine thing that they hit on a regular basis. And I'm really curious to some of the background there. But one thing that I've always said is missing, and it's really bothered me. Has anybody ever approached you guys on what's called VICAP? Have you ever heard that word VICAP? Or it's basically a history of the victims to everything of where they shop. If they order pizza, where they order pizza. Has anybody ever approached you in this investigation to try to
Closest we got to they were scared once I hired a lawyer. They just stopped talking to me, and my lawyer said they'll answer questions, but to the point of they're not going to be witnesses because they didn't want the gag order to fall over. I told my lawyer I want the ability to speak on behalf of my child. If anything comes to the point where they're going to put a gag on me, then they can't talk to me. And I had nothing to hide. It was just, you're not going to control me like an asset. I'm going to speak on my daughter's behalf, or I'm going to jail, one or the other. So, yeah, we never got there. We got to the passwords. We got to usernames. They hit Olivia up. Olivia got into the cloud ID. Like, Olivia hacked. It's fake. Like, we know the passwords.
I knew my sister's password on her Apple device, but it was two-factor authentication. So it would send a code to her device, and they wouldn't. And still to this day, they've not handed over her phone because they say that they can't get into it. But regarding VICAP, and I apologize if I got that wrong, no, we've never ever heard that. We've never been familiar with that at all.
So do they not do go back 6 months, let's just say 6 months, and make a timeline of every single place that these kids have been? Oh, that's what it sounds like to me. I might be wrong, but you're supposed to do that to see if any of these places or the timelines overlap with Brian's. Wow.
You would remember it's about almost 300 questions, and it's a deep dive in any information. And this has nothing to do with the gag order. There's no reason they wouldn't do that. The reason I'm asking is there's certain things that would come out in their normal pattern. Like, hey, if they ran to the convenience store, what convenience store would they run to? Is it kind of if they met friends or everybody was going, is there a place that they would converge? And we're getting back into the reliability of the GPS. So I don't want to get too far on a branch saying I know this happened, but there are multiple times that the device, Kohberger's device, is in the area of the house, and then it moves to the parking lot of that A&W root beer. At the same time, multiple residents of the house go to the A&W root beer. So there's times where I can actually see that, and that to me, that's what we call a collision. It's one thing to have two devices in a general area, but when we see the two devices tracked together to a point.
That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so this VICAP thing is a questionnaire where, these two, or and the mom and the rest of the family would know that these girls or Kaylee went to the A&W. See, he knew exactly where it was at. He's probably been there. Kaylee's probably took him there. So he's saying that when some of the devices of the kids would leave the house and go to the A&W place, Brian's device showed up at the A&W place. That's stalking, I would say. Wow. See, I haven't watched this yet. Like I said, I wanted to get some full reaction here.
And then track back. That's incredibly telling. So, the idea that nobody has come back to you guys and said, "Hey, let's talk about the A&W or some of the other friends," it's just mind-numbing to me. So I can't agree with you enough. It needs to be changed. That's why I took this case. Is I'm hoping in any pain and trauma that I've caused you guys, I can't apologize. And I feel my sincerest respect and condolences on this thing. I couldn't imagine being in your guys' situation, having to go through this. And now it coming full circle back. But at the same time, when I first looked at this case, my initial thought was this can never be the standard investigation that we see on cases like this. This can never be acceptable. Bryan and I were talking before you guys jumped on. After the plea deal, I actually, and against the defense, Ann was incredibly upset with me for doing this. But I've created a 1 day debrief that I've been going around the country for free, providing to law enforcement. And for you guys, hopefully this helps a little bit. We've had an incredible response from law enforcement. The service you guys got on this case, the average law enforcement agency is appalled by. Since November, when I started teaching this course, we've had 300 agencies throughout the United States attended. So it's resonating. We're getting a lot of endorsement of, yes, we need to change these things. But it's really interesting to look at that, just how much fell through the cracks on this case.
So I have a quick question, and I hope that it comes across the right way. So my question is separating the murders and the burglary from the stalking. And as we know, the state never picked up stalking charges, but the FBI currently still has an active investigation. Do you think that some of those things were not picked up by the state because of this separation? Or do you think that this would have been something that would not have driven a charge, or would not have been evidence of a charge that they were not actively pursuing?
That's a good question.
I am guessing. This is my opinion of it, things that I've seen. I'm happy sharing this opinion to whoever, but there's a lot that needs to be filled in for it to land where I say 100% this is what's happening. I'm about 90% here. They back themselves into a corner, into a no-win situation, because the problem the FBI has with stalking right now is they cannot prove stalking in the work product that they did. It'll never hold up in court. In fact, I don't think a federal prosecutor would even take the case. So that's why we haven't seen the FBI proceed with that. Does the FBI have information right now, or potentially the ability to go get information to prove that case? 100%. But their problem that they have.
Tell me what that would be.
Well, it'd be that mobile advertiser ID. It would be mapping all of the AT&T records and looking at the pattern of life of Bryan over 6 months, where we see these routine travel patterns. We can see where he's going, what he's doing, how
the timeline. Oh my God! Like, I'm as they're talking, I'm like trying to absorb all this information. Like, stalking, whatever, but if they bring the stalking charge up, that just would further, in my personal opinion, I think it would further point the finger that Bryan did it, which he already admitted to it, but he's trying to overturn that. Because, in my opinion, I think it's because he can't handle being in jail. He can't do it. He's probably getting bullied and harassed and stuff, and, I mean, I don't care. I don't care that's happening to you. I'm sure everybody listening doesn't care. But, man, but yeah, if they could prove the stalking, it would go to premeditated.
long he's stagnating there. Understanding pattern of life is everything for this case. The problem the FBI has is to make that stalking case, they're going to have to disclose or discover new evidence that never came out from the state of Idaho. And now you have these competing cases where you have a case that allegedly went through the entire process of discovery and never produced the evidence that's needed. And now for a federal case to all of a sudden say, oh, by the way, here's this other evidence, they've painted themselves into a corner that they can't explain.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I feel like there's two discoveries, because I've actually heard almost everything that you've said already. That he was in that house, even waited in certain locations for like extended periods of time of no movement. Um,
What?
this wasn't the only house that he stalked. There was like a loop that he was following, and there was a couple other places that he basically stood still for a certain amount of time. Just telltale
Oh my God.
signs that this person wasn't shopping, you know, and they cross correlated to bank records and the ATMs and all that stuff. They had some stuff, the basic old school investigations they had down, but the technical was almost like they outsourced it to the FBI. And then when the FBI were like, we're not so sure that our discovery is your discovery or our investigation is your investigation, that there was these huge gaps in it. And when they went to go to make a case, it wasn't so clear. So as a
So wait. So Steve is saying that Bryan did a loop, and I'm assuming Bryan was also watching other people. I'm just oh my God. Give me a second here. I'm trying to process everything. Like, there's so much information, and it's like I already feel overwhelmed, and we're only I would not exactly 20 minutes in because I did skip through the beginning of Bryan's thing. Because there's one surprise I want you guys to hear. But he was 100% stalking. 100%, in my opinion. I'll tell you what, Steve and his wife did an amazing job. Amazing job, because we know these parents were the only the only two that wanted to be public and voice their opinion, or, be in the limelight. The other parents, I don't think they wanted to. I know the one parent didn't want to. But they did an amazing job with keeping their mouth shut about stuff. Like, holy
father,
shit.
I'm like, I'll fill in the gaps if I can, especially when it comes to technology. And it was an eye opener. It was so frustrating to sit there with a guy who looks like Santa Claus who has his consciousness, his short term memory on a piece of paper, and has no clue about
Oh,
technology, never will. And
that's
there's
that
four
that young
lives
guy.
in the back.
I can't think of his name off the top of my head. It's the state guy that talked at the I know the one press conference, and he was, like, the main talker, I believe, at the, hearings and stuff. The guy with the white beard, that's who he's talking about.
Bounce. It's
100%.
just scary.
I couldn't agree with you more. And, this is a big problem with the FBI. The FBI has a habit of coming in on these cases. And where the problem happens is the FBI has access to things they can't get into court properly. They can't lay the foundation the way that state courts require. But they still proceed. The IGG, I will tell you, the investigative genetic genealogy on this case is overlooked at how impactful it was. As soon as they made the decision to go with investigative genetic genealogy, this case was doomed from an ethical perspective because they had to go outside of policy, they had to hide things. And now, once they got the hit, you can see it clear as day. The rest of the investigation is how do we hide the IGG? Because we don't ever want to talk about the way that for me as an old school investigator that drives me crazy is Bryan Kohberger's vehicle and his name are setting in a report that entire time. All they had to do is follow up and get a sample of his DNA. If they would have done that and stopped trying to rely or over rely on this technology of the IgG produced, I think this is a completely different case. But they crossed a line with IgG. They knew they crossed the line, and everything we see after that is nothing more than smokescreen trying to hide.
Okay, everybody. Take a minute, take a breather, process all this information that we're getting. So far we've learned Bryan's phone tracks him back to being inside the house at least 5 times or in the vicinity. He was around the vicinity when the kids were at the house, and then they would drive down the road to the A&W store, and then his phone happened to pop up there. Like, I just I'm feeling very overwhelmed right now. I don't have words. This is crazy.
What actually happened to identify him.
I'll go a step further and be careful with this. I wish my lawyer was here. The IgG was done in a scripted fashion of it works. We know how it does. They told me, the people that I've been around said, if we get it tossed out, it led to the dad. It never led to BK. And that's by design. It never goes to him. It goes to his father in the trash, established the law, and then we got a warrant and we got the cheek swab. We got it down. IgG is not going to ever be in court because it's a tip, and this is established standard, and we're not going to let a little podunk Moscow make court law or state law or any kind of law. This is never going to get into a courtroom because we have these established practices, and that is what it is. And, if you call a tip on a black SUV that you've seen that has some kind of explosives in it and something, and you want to give that tip, well, that doesn't go into court either. So I get where they're going with it. And
see, like, I have a love-hate relationship with the IgG. Love it because you can get DNA from, like, there's, like, family members on there. Like, my DNA is on 23andMe and Ancestry.com because I was lied to my whole life about what I am, if that makes any sense. So, like, let's just say, let me see. I have altogether, there's 5 of us, siblings. Let's just say my sister's son, he's always in trouble. He's always in and out of jail, and so is one of my brothers. Ugh, long story. Anyways, so let's say my nephew, my sister's son, his kids commit an unaliving, but his DNA is not in the system. You can't find it, but they have his DNA, but it's not coming back to anything. They go to Ancestry, they'll be like, boom, his great aunt's stuff's in there. I know mine's in there. My niece is in there, or 2 of my nieces is in there, and then my son's is in there. So it would trace back, like, to us, but not fully, if that makes any sense. So, like, I have a love-hate relationship. I'm like, good. I'm like, they can, start trickling down and weed out who was in this spot, who lives here, da 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 da. But then I'm like, why use it if you can't use it in court? It's like, it's just a love-hate kind of thing, and it drives me nuts.
in the greater good, I'm just a dad trying to make sure that my daughter in the system gets better, but I do see some red flags, and I know we had the right guy, and we just made it all difficult for everyone. We just made it so difficult for everyone because nobody knew what they were doing.
I think
Yeah,
it's,
and
I didn't know it.
go ahead. Sorry.
oh no, I was just going to say, I think it's difficult for people to grasp that we can stand behind his guilt, but not understand or agree with everything that the prosecution and state did.
Right.
And it
Yeah,
makes it difficult for us to be put in a position where we are having to defend the state's case that we don't fully understand. And there's a lot of missing pieces for us. And that's the only way that we can justify his guilt. So it puts us in a difficult position of being like, man, you guys are really making us fight for your work that you did, that you yourself won't stand behind. That's a conversation that we have a lot as a family.
That should not be happening.
Yeah, I can imagine. And Steve, with what you said, and
If you're gonna say something, stand 10 toes down on it. They should not have to fight. And, like, Mr. and Mrs. Gonalves, they were constantly in the spotlight with the media. They're always talking, asking for help, doing this, getting the awareness out there. They even have a foundation in Kaylee's honor. They should not have to, well, the foundation, yeah, they could. So let's take the foundation out of the equation, but they should not have to be defending this shit. That's what the lawyers are there for.
I hate to put it in these terms, but it summarizes exactly what you said. The end result justifies the means, right? It doesn't matter how we get to him through IGG because we have all of these bailout plans that we feel we can protect ourselves. Anytime law enforcement takes the idea or the process or the methodology that the end result can justify the means, we're in trouble. Because what happened with that is they created the situation, they realized how impactful it was now, and now the next 4 months of investigation is nothing more than trying to hide what they did at the beginning. And that's why we see the phone records were never analyzed because they didn't need the phone records. The phone records for AT&T were nothing more than a smokescreen so that they could say, oh, look, we got this tip, we followed up on the phone, we found this, and oh, that led us over here. The phone records were never gathered as a true investigative tool because they already have the narrative written. And whatever aligned with that narrative because of IGG, they brought in, and anything that contradicted that narrative, they eliminated. A really good point on this is they committed in the first search warrant to Bryan driving east on 270. Everything, and it repeats itself, on 50 different search warrants that he traveled east on 270. Bryan Kohberger was never on Highway 270 that night, ever. He took.
Okay. Oh, American, hey. Yeah, I fully believe he did do this, in my opinion. I don't know if you're mad because I'm covering this or what by your first sentence. I do have questions though about some things that Bryan did say. But I don't know if we're ever gonna get to that. So I didn't have such funny and impeach that. Oh, because there was a mountain of there's tons of evidence. Tons of evidence against him. I know I'm still a little in shock because the amount of information that we are getting is ridiculous. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely this goes to trial and this is streamed. Oh, best bet. I will clear my schedule. I have so much to say. There are a few people online that have yeah, no. I know what you're talking about. And okay, how do I want to say this? So let me go to it. So this side guy believes that he was there previously 5 times and actually believes that he was inside the house. Um, and I kind of fully believe that. I've said it from the beginning. I believe that he was at one point inside that house during a party. Um, to do what he did in a short period of time and to know where all the rooms were in such a short period of time considering the layout of that house, there was no way. He had to have been inside that house. I use passwords like VPNs and other ooh, I didn't know that. That's interesting with the passwords. Heavy hands and other violent that's crazy. I'm gonna have to look into that. But I don't know. I'm just today was just not the day I should have done this because the amount of shit that I'm hearing about now coming out of their mouths. I'm just like, what? I can honestly pull that off Google. I think he was there. Yes. I think at one point I did Google the address. Oh, okay. I think at one point I did Google the address and there was for inside of the house. Um, I forgot where I was going now because I keep reading your comments. Let me see. Wait, single. Let me think there was had info on the layout. I forgot where I was going now. It's okay. Let me see. I pulled it up off of Proxinova. Ooh, I'm gonna have to look at that. But I don't know. I fully believe that he did this. His passwords are based off of murder movies. Oh, damn. Did you hear though that before the unalivings happened, because I don't know if I can actually use the M word on here, but before all that happened, some of the kids' phones when they left the house and went to an A&W place, and then Bryan's phone was in the same place as the house, and then it magically showed that it was at the A&W place. Yep. Mhm. Yes, I totally agree with you, American. Totally. Because he was what, obsessed with the BTK guy? Like, oh, his daughter's in the news for DV. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was obsessed over him, and he wanted to be like him. Kinda makes you wonder if that's why he took the classes that he did, so he knew how to get around things. Mm. Yeah, she is in the news right now for DV. You'll have to look it up. Right, let's get back to this because this is kinda long.
A route north of the airport. He actually crossed 95 north of Moscow, and then he dropped back down south on the east side of Moscow. And that's why he ends up on Indian Hills, is he actually came from the east. And he did that because he's smart enough to know about the cameras. What drove me crazy in this case is when you see him go back. And by the way, the reason he went south is he panicked. Dylan saw him. He saw Dylan. Reasonable minds would say 911 is being called. And you can see in the video when he leaves, he's leaving in a hurry. If he drives back that same route, he's driving towards where Moscow PD is responding from. He's going to go right back towards the police department.
What? He's got a YouTube channel? Like, did he post these kinds of videos? I would actually like to look at that channel because I did not know that was there.
So he has to go down south. When you look at 6 months worth of his records, he doesn't have activity down south. He doesn't know 95 south of Moscow. So he gets about 12, 13 miles outside of Moscow. He pulls over. There's a good gap there, which has always been a concern to me, where he sits there for probably 10
Yeah, if you can find it, post it, like, in here or whatever, or in the comments or whatever, and I wanna check that out. Don't go out of your way to try to find it, though.
minutes. He powers his phone back on. He goes into navigation mode, and we see the route back.
It's crazy dark too. So the audience might not know what it's like out here in Idaho. You get out in that farm community, there's no lights. We don't have street. It's dark as anything. Your headlights are all you have and high grass. So it gets if you're not prepared for that, you're not going to be able to figure out where you're going. And without a phone, if that's your primary source of navigation, you're driving around.
Ninjas. Please tell me there's a video on there of him with a ninja star. That would be hilarious.
Like an idiot, for a certain amount of time.
Well, then, like I said, we've got 6 months of records. I've got a mapping system. I can put everything in there. I can hit a play button, and I can watch his phone for 6 months going around the map. What you see that morning of him coming back to Pullman, you never see in the prior 5 months of records. That's the first time he's ever done that route. And then within 48 hours, he's doing the exact same route again. And that's the last time you'll see him do that. You give me the layest of lay jurors, I can connect the dots there to have them see exactly what's happening. And right after he completes that route, he goes down to Lewiston, right down to the Snake River. He's there for less than a minute or two, and then he's right back to Pullman.
Okay.
Like, what's happening? Of course we know.
But okay, if that's just in his liked videos and playlists, you don't have to bother finding it. I was wondering if he had any. We would have known about it. So I don't think he's got any videos on there. I was gonna say something too. I don't remember now. Damn it! It's all right.
What's happening. So yeah, I'm with you guys on the frustration. My apologies. Like, you guys should never have been in that situation. This is an FBI issue, and I'll frame this piece. I don't put this out publicly very often. When the plea deal was reached, I contacted the FBI cast team, and I actually told them, hey, I did a lot of the investigation here. I know what the cross-examination that you guys were going to be subjected to looks like. You name your place, I'll fly to you anywhere in the country, and I will give you the full debrief of what I saw on my side and how we could get better. They never returned my call. So, even reaching out saying, I'll give you as much insight from the defense perspective of this to be better prepared next time, they're just not interested. And the other thing that I will tell you guys just drove me crazy, now that my report's out, your guys' last name is all over that report, because
That's like, because I know guys who I do too sometimes. Like if it's a pew pew video, go into like a song or something. Because there's just one guy I see him on Facebook all the time. Um, he pulls the trigger to the sound of like the words or something like that. I don't remember. But anyways, if it's stuff like that, I watch that. But like I know guys who are like obsessed over them. They watch a lot of these videos. Like I actually know a guy here that owns the gun range. Like I've known him for years and I know he watches these videos because he's a Marine, whatever. But like I'm not trying to make excuses for Brian, but if everything is like, well, now that we know what he allegedly did, I have to say allegedly because he's trying to say, take his guilty thing back. Allegedly did. And then those videos, that's like a serial killer in the making.
I did an inventory. I put in, hey, here's what the phones were provided. And then I listed the phones by last names. The only last names in my report that were redacted are the FBI agents that worked on this case. So all of the victims' last names are in this report that went out to the public with the last 4 digits of their phone, but the FBI agents get their last name redacted? Like, what is that? That is
It's
insane.
been happening a lot. It's really,
if you off record, if you ever want to know about some of the worst, we'll let you know, but I won't propagate them here publicly.
I just want to go back for a second to something you said, Sai. So with the A&W, which is that gas station right down the road from the house. So you're saying you mapped his phone and also was it the victim's phones at the same time there?
Correct. And there's movement where they're all in the area of the house before that, and then we see it pop up over by the A&W, but they're together. They're at least mapping, and they're mapping not the exact same lat longs. They're just slightly off, but they're within meters of each other, which is, for me, that's a tall tale sign that we're getting better accuracy, because sometimes the system will default if there's a problem with the system, and everybody will get the same lat long ping for like a 5,000 meter radius. But all of the lat longs are identical. In this case, they're just slightly different. They're just a couple meters apart. And it's a pattern. It happens multiple times. There's also an incident, and it was the second. I'm going to screw these dates up, but I can give them to you guys later if it's important. It was the first weekend after school started, and I believe it was Kaylee and Maddie went to Pullman, and I believe there was some type of a sorority, maybe fraternity party, and it's in the apartment complex right next to Bryan Kohberger's apartment. And at one point, Bryan Kohberger's phone moves over to that apartment complex as well. And that's rare. He doesn't typically hang out in that complex. But this is all the way going back in August, that first weekend after school started, the phones intersect in Pullman.
Oh.
yeah, the prosecution was doing.
Well, now I wonder if that's where. Right. Wow. So either I kind of wonder if that's where he like found them at. I'm still telling you there is a bombshell that's gonna be dropped in this, but oh my god, let me see. That type of shit makes me think there is a hidden camera or something. Exactly, or he's got trackers on their cars. But I think I don't know if we would have heard about if like FBI would have found trackers on their cars. But that's just crazy. Like he was either spending way too much time watching this house, or there's a tracker or something, like you said, a camera. Like, damn, man.
doing the exact same thing. They were trying to take his phone activity and cross correlate it with the other people in the phone. They wanted to know who was in the house at a certain time because they wanted to plan the route to who was in there because they were trying to figure out who was he after. And Olivia could tell you the exact day that Kaylee moved in there. I think you said it was like May.
Yeah, into the King Road house. She did move in May.
Yeah.
That's true. That could have been done too. Because what's about 4 years now? 3, 4 years now? Because September will be a year, he'll be in jail. So I know I'm trying to think like because I know a lot of that's going around right now. That could have been like the start of it all. He plotted his shit in depth, I think. He used Google Stats City records for house layout or solo or whatever. Yep. That's where I find out where people live. I go to the courthouse and do the property search.
Yeah, so other people speculate if there was no one
Diagram.
in the house or only Maddie was in the house. We've never tried to play the blame game. We don't care about that. Who's to blame is BK, and we're holding him accountable. None of the victims, none of the victims. Like another thing I appreciate you saying is no cleanup. We've really chased that down because I mean they're literally driving these young girls to the point of they don't have a life anymore. So you're not true crime anymore. You're speculation, Hollywood fan fiction crap. And I would love for true crime to get back on focus and say, how do we make the world a
Floor plans, some courthouses do have them. It's literally it's just a drawing. It's a blank drawing, like say your living room, I don't know, it's 12 by 12 and your kitchen's like 9 by 10, bathroom is 5 by 6, whatever. Like um it'll be like the floor plan is like a tan color, and then you have the squares for like where, and it'll be the squares or rectangles or whatever for each individual room. And it'll have like the length on one side and length on the other side. That's Steve. That's Kaylee's dad. And it'll say like living room, like they'll all be labeled. So yeah, but some courthouses do have that.
better place? How do we make sure that people are coming together to actually have less murders and mass murders every single year? That's something we should work towards, not this fan fiction stuff. I mean, so that's part of the reason why we're here today. This is why we've been so dedicated. That's why we made a charity. This is why we have Murder Has a Name. We're doing everything in these girls and these victims' names. Ethan is.
Oh, how do I want to put it? I do my research on people that I have issues with. Not saying that I go and do anything. I don't. I mean, my son's about ready to turn 18. I've kept myself clean. So, but yeah, I know a lot more than what I should of how to get around and how to use things.
Well, and make sure that the world's a better place. Really, it's just the world's a better place when this is said and done.
Yeah.
You said no cleanup, Ty. I mean, right? That you
There's
think
no cleanup. He was in and out. We're talking minutes. And I'm limited on some of this information. There was some reenactments that I know were done, and the reenactments, this crime could clearly be carried out by a single individual, and it's 5 to 6 minutes. And if push every
two things at once. Let me try to read your comment first, real quick. Posted online forums years ago that he had crazy thoughts and his religion on Brandy. That doesn't surprise me. I know he was posting on Reddit about the snow stuff. But then this guy talking about he was in there 5, 6 minutes. See, that's why in the beginning I was like, oh, he had to have help to do this, but now we're finding out that this side guy 100% believes that Bryan was inside the house. And now we're finding out like he's literally stalking them. And I fully believe that he had been inside the house now. But I don't know. I'm still stuck on the whole when he was going after Xana and Ethan. Like, I'm sure Ethan would have woke up, heard what was going on with Xana. Like, how did he do these two? Like, how did he do Kaylee and Maddie at the same time? Like, that's still, I think, hopefully we find this out.
came to shove, and that had to be proven in court. I know there's video out there of the reenactments. Like, there is no doubt that this is a single offender. But on that point, I think what you guys are hitting at, it's frustrating to see.
Single offender. So then why, when Bryan was arrested, why did he ask the cop, did you get the other guy? Or what about the other guy? I think that he was trying to point them in a different direction, which it didn't go. It didn't go in the other direction.
Is, Turvey wants to say that there's cleanup because of things that are absent. Basically there's things that aren't in a bathroom, therefore it's indicative of cleanup. There's no evidence of what that bathroom looked like before or after. Like, if we start building a case on that type of speculation, Bryan Kohberger is going to walk, right? That's just absurd. And I felt a deep obligation to call Turvey out. And, I'm going to piece something together for you guys. And I've been on the fence if I should voice this, but I think it's the right thing to do. So if I get in trouble later on, so be it. Don't get caught up in what I believe is a very rehearsed scam that is happening right now. If you look at what's happened over the last 3 months, let me help you guys connect some dots. Brett Turvey gets with Whitcomb, who's another idiot. Like the guy who's never investigated a homicide is going to be the armchair quarterback that's going to change this thing, right? So Turvey and Whitcomb partner up. Turvey becomes very outspoken about this. And what does Ann Taylor do? She publicly reprimands him and issues the cease and desist. If you think about what Turvey's saying Bryan Kohberger is innocent, that this is a big conspiracy, that there's other people. I mean, he goes as far as saying Dylan is potentially involved. How absolutely absurd. Yet, Ann Taylor reprimands him from proclaiming BK's innocence. I come out with a book. I go around to law enforcement. Ann knows. I told her I was going to go teach law enforcement. I have been very, very clear. I've always thought Bryan Kohberger is guilty. I think in 10 out of 10 courts in America convict this kid. Every single time we go to court, he gets convicted. The question is.
See, yeah, with your comment, the 4 people a lot harder. I imagine, granted, he did a lot of cardio. He did. But I don't know, like, was he on some rugs? Like, to get all of this done in such a short period of time. That's where I'm having issues at. That's why I want to watch the trial, if it goes to trial. I want to know. I want to know how he did this to 4 people in such a short period of time. The only thing I can think of is the booger sugar. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Does all the evidence come in because of some of the ways that the evidence was managed, which is a whole different conversation. But I am very outspoken that Bryan Kohberger is the guy. Why hasn't Ann issued a letter to me about breaching my NDA or all this stuff? I will argue any day of the week. What I am saying is way more detrimental to the defense's case than what Brian Turvey said, or Brent Turvey. And she did the one with Turvey. If you guys look at the picture, and here's the critical dates, the Thursday before the plea deal, Ann says in open court, Your Honor, I can't affect.
See, even because you think, what, Brian, how old is he? He's in his late 30s, I think, or something like that. I mean, I'm 40 and I'm so out of shape. Let me see. I thought I don't know. I don't do those. But I don't know. It's just trying to do on a live 4 people, like, oh. Unless, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to start speculating because then
actively represent my client if I don't get the continuation. So you have the primary attorney on this case saying in open court, it's one of the last statements she made before the plea deal, I cannot effectively represent my client. Those are not small words for an attorney to say in open court. And then
I wouldn't have allowed him.
72 hours later, we have a plea deal. And the way the plea deal came down, the way you guys were notified is disgusting. I've never seen that in 30 years. Like that, there's all kinds of craziness going on there.
Oh, so that last comment you just posted, there will be a bombshell dropped. You can just wait. There's allegedly a target. Oops, what the hell did I just do? No, there we go.
We just learned that his family was there at the plea deal. His family was there, so they learned before we did. That's the disrespect.
What are you getting at, though, Si? If you can just connect the pieces of what you're trying to say a little more. I'm just trying to follow.
We have the ineffective counsel claim. We have the plea deal gets worked out within 72 hours. And Taylor stays on as Kohberger's attorney. Like this last year, she's the only person on the jail logs that was visiting him on a regular basis. He hasn't sought out new counsel. She's very much in his ear on a daily basis. We then see the Turvey Whitcomb book come out where, hey, there's all this conspiracy. Anne has to separate herself from that and says, oh, I don't agree with this. I'm going to reprimand you guys. Don't say these things. And now we see Bryan drop. And I knew the appeal was coming. In my book that I sent to the publisher in February, which is a manual, it's not a Bryan Kohberger tell-all, I put it in the book. Like the appeal is coming. There's no doubt about it.
No,
you called it.
I know.
And what I'm convinced about is Turvey and Ann are together on this. Turvey and Ann are not at odds. Ann needed some new information because that's the only way an ineffective counsel gets any legs at all. They need something new to get spun up. They need it to be very well known. And now there has to be this separation where Ann is helping Bryan, but not directly involved. And who takes that role is Turvey. So Turvey comes out, says all this nonsense. Bryan writes his thing. The last missing piece, and mark my words, I think we're going to see it in the next 60 to 90 days. Anne will absolutely fall on her sword for BK. She is a true believer. She believes he's innocent. She has an
What?
unhealthy relationship with him. And I think we're going to see.
Oh, she has an unhealthy relationship with him. Girl, you let him manipulate you. Jesus. Oh, this was not the bombshell. There, I will let you know, American. It's one of the kids in the house, but this was not the bombshell. One of the girls. Okay. But oh, an unhealthy relationship. Maybe she's a fangirl. Look at her. She's got access to Bryan whenever she wants. Oh, damn. Dude, my dog just snuck out of here and I didn't even realize it. Oh, there was an. I have no idea about any of his usernames. I do know I was in that one Facebook group where the Papa whatever. Like, I seen those posts. And then he disappeared and then he came back. But ooh, there's gonna be so much shit that comes out. I kind of, I kind of wonder if they were having like an emotional relationship. Oh God, please let this go to trial. Please, 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 please.
Anne come out in the next like 60 to 90 days, maybe a little bit longer, depending on the timeline. And she's going to eat the ineffective counsel. She's going to say, he's right. I missed it. I should have known about it. And
big break moment. I just looked at it with a new lens with this new thing. Yeah. I'm going to go even further. I'm going to let some stuff out of the bag. So I've talked to some authors, and so they actually have footage of BK boxing. He's an amateur boxer. They have a whole thing of him in the ring. 3 minutes, 162 punches. 160. That was going to be like, oh, he couldn't do 150 in 12 minutes. Now they have him in 3 minutes throwing blows of 162 times. So there was more than enough time. There was actually more time for you to go in and maneuver and do things, change clothes, whatever you did. There was time there, and they were going to show him physically doing it against another human being that was willing to fight him. And these people.
There it goes. There's the answer to my question of how he did it so fast. But it's kind of a just for truth's sake, but it makes a mockery of the court. Read a book and tell all, Brian. So 160, what did he say? 162 punches? Oh, yeah. With all the cardio and stuff he did? Damn, man. I was really hoping there was going to be a second one. Oh. Give me a minute. I'm taking this in here. Well, I was wrong. I will admit I was wrong. There was no second person. Bryan did it all. Yeah, I read he trained in boxing. Didn't know for sure. I think I heard something about it, but it wasn't like an in-depth thing. Jesus. It's like he was made to unalive people. Or he, like you said, he was coming up. Or not coming up. I can't think of what it is now. Definitely about how many. Yeah. Oh, I know. I got a guy that does MMA, or a friend that does MMA. It's like you said, like he wanted to do this. He wanted to be a serial killer. And he's been training himself, getting himself in the best condition ever to do this. And it kind of makes you wonder, did he ever drop the knife? Did he start punching? Damn, man. I hate being wrong. But I will admit, I wasn't wrong. There is no second person.
For sleeping in bed. They had a really good plan. Some parts they were going to execute really well, other parts they didn't execute as well. But to anyone who thinks that somebody could go in there, they didn't have enough time, you don't know your facts. They were going to show you to your face.
So you think, Sai, right? I mean, you would know, I guess. You were on the inside.
Yeah,
that
you train
Dan Taylor
training to become one.
actually believes he's innocent and has an unhealthy relationship with him.
I am concerned about the ongoing communication.
Oh, no doubt. I'm not saying you're lying or anything. It probably was. Let me see. I highly distrust the actions of the two survivors. Exactly. I'm not a Dylan fan at all. And neither Bethany, not, I don't know. Dylan, though, is the one that I don't want to say hate because it's a strong word. Like you said, distrust. 100% distrust her.
Protection, just that I don't know how else to explain it, almost as like a motherly instinct with Bryan. To Steve's point, 100%. The Kohberger family was way more involved on that plea deal than the victims' families ever were. I believe that there was conversations going from the jail in real time of this thing going down. There's no doubt about that. But I've done a lot of these cases. I've done a lot of death penalty cases. It is very unusual for the defense attorney on the case, especially one who's technically a public defender, to stay involved and active with the defendant in prison visitations the year following a plea deal. That is incredibly rare. Like the case is done. No one is making contact with him. So the idea that it's all Ann and only Ann, and he hasn't obtained a new attorney for this appeal, to me is very telling. I think jail logs and jail calls would really expose a regular routine between Ann and Bryan that they're visiting and talking on a weekly, if not daily basis at times, which is weird. Yeah, that's unhealthy in my opinion. As a criminal defense attorney,
Wait. She's still visiting him, calling him or whatever. After he took the plea, like after everything was said and done, she's still doing it. Did I hear that right? Ooh, please let there be some love notes. Oh, that would be awesome if that came out. Oh, what the fuck?
got to keep that line between your clients, right?
Yeah, I was told by insiders that it's a small community we live in that said she's purposely after you, Steve. She's watching your interviews, making us all watch it together and coming up with discovery based off your conversations. And once I learned that, guess what? I started talking about Bluetooth. I started talking about other things and just put her on rabbit trails just to play chess with her. But
Okay.
I've heard some really fun.
And that would be interesting to know. That an ineffective console. I wonder it, okay? Just a little theory or a little opinion. I wonder if she may have turned him down, and that's why he put out this ineffective console bullshit.
Natural things are going
I see
on
what you're
in this
saying.
case.
I'm dyslexic, so I can read it.
Is there evidence? I'll save Steve for a minute. On Olivia's cue. Is there? I'm just joking. Is there evidence, Sai, that we don't know about that was never public?
Ooh. Oh, what? This whole time. We've gone this whole fucking entire time without a goddamn ad and fucking in
I think there's definitely stuff that has been withheld and has still been withheld. I don't know how much it was conveyed to the victims' families, universally, not just Steve and Olivia, but across the board. There's some really disturbing things on his internet history that I don't know ever really came out that would be incredibly hard to just simply show and walk away from a jury not thinking that it's going to leave a big impact, especially on the case of this nature. I'm talking right now specifically his porn history. He's got a very disturbing porn history that I think really paints a picture.
And that's all non-consensual acts. And I also heard gay, male to male gay. Is that accurate?
I don't know on the gay stuff, and quite honestly, I don't mean this in the way it's going to sound. I'm not focused on the gay porn. For me,
I know what you're focused on.
Yeah, for me, you hit it on the head, Olivia. The non-consensual, violent nature of the porn.
I was aware.
Oh, that's not the bombshell, but that's a good one. Oh man, I know there are sites out there. Well, like, okay, so American, all right, there's websites out there that people will record themselves graping people, or they unalive them and then grape them. You know what I'm saying? I bet you that's what it is. Not, he said non-consensual. Oh man, I'll bet you. I see they made me until it's a stars. Oh shoot! So I'm gonna bet when they drop the name of the one girl that's the target, as we should say, I'm gonna bet you that's what he was gonna do to her, because remember, Kaylee wasn't supposed to be there. Kaylee didn't live there anymore, okay? So Kaylee's not supposed to be there. I don't know if he knew about Ethan being there, but Ethan pretty much lived there as it was. I wonder. Let me see. I would act as if I have a heart to see that. I bet you that's what he went for. I kind of wonder. Because if Kaylee wasn't there, Maddie would have been sleeping alone. Let's just say he didn't think anything about Ethan being there, but he wasn't expecting to run into Xana. Tick, tick, tick. Wow. Oh my God. I'm so like, my stomach. I missed my freaking. I had to reschedule my dentist appointment this morning because my stomach is just all upset when I woke up, and it's just getting even more like, ugh. I I'm blown away. Nasty, nasty motherfucker. There is a Facebook group, Duo American. There's a couple that I'm in. It's like morbid stuff. I'm sure you know which ones I'm talking about. Something I did notice is that Brian's username had. Do you use like onset stuff? Because I'm kind of thinking about putting that into some onset. I have software that connects the username to over 100K, 10K websites, and we'll find some other usernames too. Don't do mine. I'm a real person, but no, like, I'm kind of scared to play the rest of this because that's just fucking sick, perverted shit.
Terms drugged, raped, passed out, sleeping.
I would go more on incredibly violent sexual encounters. So not the sleeping or passed out, but very aware of what's happening and it being very, very violent.
Oh my
which
God.
is always a tough thing for a prosecutor, or I mean, sorry, a defense attorney to get through. That's something that's going to really tell a story about somebody's character. I think that there's stuff to still come out. I think you guys are going down the right road. I've quietly been watching, waiting for more to drop. I can tell you, for me, the location information and the pattern of life, it hasn't come out because I don't think they ever looked at it. And it is by far the most telling of what we have out there. By the way, the day after this, he turns the phone off again. So, again, they're trying to show these patterns, and they do a pretty good job of showing, hey, prior to the murders, he turns his phone off on this days, but it's like they just stopped on November 13th. And as an investigator who's looking at a lot of crimes like this, I want to see what he's doing the next week, the next 2 weeks, the next month. Like that is a really critical period too, that we see very defined behaviors of suspects like this. And the very next day, he heads to Moscow, he turns his phone off, he turns it back on, and he's southbound on I-95. It's almost a mirror of what you saw the day before.
The Barnhart said that they found a config file that they had to reproduce, and luckily they had exact same phone. But basically, he went through a pattern. He turned off the Wi-Fi. Then I'm gonna mess this up, but he turned off the Wi-Fi, like airplane mode, then put VPN, and then put VPN to only establish connections after start. And he did this whole thing, and that was brand new. He hadn't done that in the config files. That was the first time he did it, and they're going to bring that forward to say that this is a new behavior, just same thing that you're saying, a new behavior that he did before and after, and he doesn't do it again. He like stops coming back to the Moscow area after the murders. He doesn't go back there anymore. So anybody who thinks he's over there just shopping, they're like, and I guess the message really is to the world is you can't commit these crimes anymore and get away with it. And that's really what I'm trying to say is I just learned recently with the labs I'm working with, I can't say this on regular TV, rapes are getting very, very rare. People don't get away with rape anymore because there's the fluid exchange, and that's leading everyone's starting to learn. If I do this, I'm going to get caught. And we need that same message in these murder cases.
They're spending a little too much time on the grape stuff. So that really kind of, I don't want to say solidifies, but puts my theory into why he went there.
And I don't know how to say that in a mainstream media format, but I'm trying to work on.
Thank your podcast, Bryan Enton.
What'd you say, Olivia?
So we're just going to tank your podcast instead. My apologies.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
So on that, Steve and Olivia, let me give you a name. Follow this case. I think it's really, really important. The name is Matthew Nilo, Nilo. So Nilo.
Okay.
Matthew is an attorney who was practicing in New York, but he went to law school in Boston. And in the early 2000s, when he was in law school in Boston, he was a serial rapist. And I want to say he had 7 victims that they've identified. About 2 years ago, maybe 3. Man, time's flying right now. Maybe a little bit longer. Just after these murders, they did the exact same thing. It's the exact same team with IgG, and they took some of the DNA from one of those rapes. They ran it through IgG, and like I said, it's the same team that worked on the Kohberger case, and they got a hit on
because
Nilo.
it's freaking Matthew Nilo guy is a freaking also an actor too. Oh my God.
And they went and did the 1-to-1 comparison. They got it. They arrested him in New York. That case is working its way through Massachusetts right now. He's going to challenge the IgG, and he's going to win. The thing I want you guys focused on, because this is probably one of the more infuriating things. And if somebody's told you this, I'll shut up. But if they haven't, they are doing a huge disservice to all of the victims' families right now by not giving you guys the lay of the land. The defense is going to buy all the time they can until one of these IgG cases hits a major appeals case or the U.S. Supreme Court. When it does, you can kind of mark my words here, the rule is going to become you have to have a search warrant for IgG. You just have to. It's
Yeah. It makes you wonder how many are still sitting on shelves right now, and how many of those cases have not gotten closed because they caught the person.
Most states have already started to adopt it, but this Nilo case is really likely. He's got the resources, the funding, and the knowledge to take this to the Supreme Court. If that happens, and they actually look at, hey, when you sidestep the search warrant and you step outside of policy, IgG is out. If that ever happens, that is Bryan's gold card right there. And I think that the defense, they're watching this case very carefully. They're waiting to see what happens with this, and everything you guys are going to see the next year or two is nothing more than buying time.
But would that even matter if he pled guilty? I mean, it's not like he had a trial and then was found guilty, and then he could go back and say, oh, the evidence they used at trial against me, is unfair. Like he still pled guilty. And that had nothing to
So
do with the IGG.
so here's the issues, and there's two huge
Okay, I
issues
found it.
here. And again, Steve, if somebody's explained this to you, then I'll move on. If not, like you
Yeah,
guys,
I
you have
heard
to be
it
aware.
was the one that they give you. Can't think of the word. See, new attorney has attempted to get new trial for previously pleading guilty. Yeah, I heard that he's going to be getting a new lawyer. It's the one that they provide for you. I can't think of what the hell it's called. But yeah, I heard that.
Of this. The fact that the prosecution probably never told you about Garza versus Idaho. And man,
Oh yeah,
commit that one to memory. So Garza versus Idaho is a U.S. Supreme Court involving Idaho, where a guy who took a plea deal.
I think it's going to trial. If it does, I'm here for it. It sucks for the families, but if they can get like all that public public pretender, public prosecutor. Yeah, I knew you. Okay, but it's gonna suck for the families and everything to have to go through it all. But if they can, let me see. I didn't think the judge would grant him a new attorney. Wild. Yeah, yeah. But if this guy, like, if they can get, I know, I'm just messing with you. But if they can get all that data to show that he was literally stalking these kids and stuff, like, I know there's more. I know there's more that they're not saying. And how much time do we have? We're only 48 minutes into an hour and 22. So there's going to be a lot more. And the target hasn't been dropped yet. So like, I don't know. I wanted to go to trial. So he gets, I think if it goes to trial, he will get the firing squad this time. I believe so. Or death penalty or whatever. But it just makes you feel for the families to have to relive it all again.
Who voluntarily pled guilty actually got it reversed. And he took it all the way to the Supreme Court. So plea deals are not the closing of a case. Plea deals aren't like, okay, we're going to put this behind us. We're going to let everybody get closure here.
Trust me, I wanted to say I want the truth first, but I have a little bit of a heart. And, the families have to go through it. But yeah, I want to hear everything. There was one I was watching. I can't remember which one it was. I think I blocked it out. I literally was watching it. It made me so sick to my stomach. I literally threw up. It was bad. So that's what I'm kind of worried about with it going to trial. Because I can guarantee you it goes to trial and they start showing pictures or videos or talking about the marks and stuff on all the kids' bodies and stuff. The families are going to have to leave. I would 100% leave.
Anytime a prosecutor frames a plea deal as closure, they're doing a huge disservice because plea deals get turned over all the time on appeal. The second thing, and man, I am not a Hippler fan at all. I think Hippler made a critical error when he made the ruling that IGG could come in as a tip, so be it. But the moment he prevented the defense from being able to expose to the jury that the lab techs willingly, knowingly violated their own policy to do it, it's not a constitutional issue. That evidence comes in, but it does become a credibility issue. And any other court in the United States, when anybody associated with law enforcement oversteps a policy as it relates to evidence, you got to explain that on the stand. And I think if the prosecution did it right, you can explain that. Hey, for the interest of justice, for X, Y, and Z, yeah, we made this tactical decision. But the moment that Hippler made the decision that the jury can never hear about any of that, and the defense is not allowed to cross-examine officers who knowingly, intentionally violated policy on one of the most critical pieces of evidence in this case, that is a judicial oversight. That in of itself, when challenged properly, has the ability to bring this case back. Now, to Steve, to your point, do it right. 10 times out of 10, he gets convicted and maybe more comes out and it really does put some closure behind this thing. Bring back the death penalty. I am all for this. But I think that I don't agree with the national populace right now that his appeal doesn't have legs and it's very unlikely it's going to happen. I think there's a couple things that if it falls into place just right, it could happen. So I just say that as prepare yourself, right?
Yeah, the Gonzalez, I think they said all of the parents? I can't remember, but I know him and his or Steve's and his wife, they want a trial. They want it all to come out. They wanna be transparent as hell, and, I mean, for people like us who are nosy, that's good for us, and it's also gonna be put out there that to show Brian's true colors.
I've heard, I've talked
So
to
I think they're gonna embarrass the shit out of him, especially when she talked that day. Ooh, that was a
some
good one.
crazy labs, and so there's some multi-billionaire. Okay, his house got broken into. Somebody stole his safe. Didn't just take it. Didn't just break into it. They took it. And long story short, a cigar was left behind. This guy hires a private lab to get a snip off of it, and then uploads it to all and goes and finds the person who robs his house and shot his dog, which is like it's like a movie, okay? And he gives it to the cops as a tip, and they said the court he basically arrested this guy and kind of is taking shit over it because he was supposed to handle it himself. So, long story short, he starts his own company and he's just going through certain locations that he's deemed as high risk, and they're just grabbing
Maybe we'll take some
people's
medicine, I'll be right back.
DNA and uploading it as if they own it. But once you abandon your DNA, you don't own it. So then they're making these databases to sell to the freaking cops. It's an ex. I'm going to say he's a criminal, and this is a weird story, but I really don't know he was or not, or he was just a shady business guy. But he found a niche, and he's going in there because the database CODIS is puny. There's almost nobody in it, so they need to get to these bigger ones. And he found this niche, and they're like, we're afraid to work with this guy because we feel like this is going to get shut down. But this is the stuff that's going on, Steve. This is the wild west of IGG.
What were you gonna say, Olivia? Were you gonna say something?
yeah. So I guess that I just don't follow the logic completely that this is not an appeal. This is a post-conviction relief. The relief that he's asking for is for his guilty plea to be removed. Let's say that it's all granted. That essentially puts him back on the trial court. Let's say that they successfully delay until the Supreme Court decision in which it is deemed to be unconstitutional for the IGG process. We're assuming that that's going to be then done retroactively, then apply to this case. Let's assume that that happens. Let's assume that IGG gets removed. It doesn't change
Okay, I'm back.
his DNA being a direct match to the DNA on the sheath. So I guess I'm not following how we jump from these things happening. And I know you said that they're unlikely. You know, you were like, if these things all fall together. But I'm not following how these things all fall together to then have the IGG removed, which then puts us in a position where the case is at risk considering the DNA is a match. So maybe the work was ethically budged, but the work itself is good.
Yeah, so let me give you a couple things on that. The best case I can reference you to is Carpenter versus US. And what Carpenter is, it's a bank robbery case, so obviously not anything of the nature of what we're talking about here. But in Carpenter, they do some cell tower dumps and they look at cell phone records, and they're able to place Carpenter at the scene of this bank robbery using cell phone records. But it's the FBI. And, in 2017, well, actually, the ruling's in 2017. The case actually happens about 2010, 2011. The FBI gets involved, and instead of using a search warrant.
So it kind of makes you wonder, did he? Oh, I'm trying to back my chair up. Oh, I'm on my blanket. So it kind of makes you wonder, did he get his hands on that book, that Broken Plea book, which I read it. I am not a book person. I am street smart, not book smart, but I wanted to read it. Kind of makes you wonder, did he get that book and read it? And I mean, there is some stuff in there, but nothing like what we're hearing now. That maybe lit a fire under his ass, and he's like, this, that, and the other, or like I said before, did Anne reject him? and he's trying to become relevant again, and he's not. Maybe we don't bring our phones to bank robbery. Duh. I'm so glad when I was in high school we didn't have cell phones, so I would have gotten into a lot of troubles back then because I never got caught.
To get the phone records, they use basically what they call an admin subpoena, which is a supervisor at the FBI saying, hey, this is relevant to a criminal investigation, give us the stuff. So Verizon gives them the records, and they put him at the crime scene. They recover some evidence based on the phone records. He goes to prison. It goes on. He finally gets his appeal. It goes up to the U.S. Supreme Court, and this was the first case in the United States that challenged, can law enforcement look at your location data without a search warrant?
Geo warrants.
Yeah, and basically the Supreme Court said no. Looking into your location data is so
True.
personal, it requires a search warrant.
Because
And this was the landmark case.
remember when it came out that the other inmates were yelling stuff through the vent at him? He probably can't handle it. And I mean, he's locked in that room, what, 23 hours of the day? Or 22 or whatever, outside time, shower time. He eats in there. He shits and pisses in his freaking cell. I just think he can't handle it and he wants out. And he's trying anything he can to get out.
For cell site location information that requires law enforcement. And now everybody except.
Okay, sidebar. So, a girl and a guy that I graduated high school with, they had been dating. She got pregnant her senior year. Whatever. I still love her. Love her so much. Hate him. He's an asshole. Okay, so the house that I'm in now, it'll be what, 8 years? 8 years tomorrow. Yeah, 8 years tomorrow that I got this house. I bought this house from her because they both had split, whatever. At this point, they had 2 daughters. Okay. So let me see. She graduated in, I think, was it 2019? I can't remember. I did the math. But anyways, she graduated. A year later, at the age of 19, she was hit and killed by a drunk driver at 3 p.m. Literally right down the road from this house. Okay. She was actually on her way to go babysit for her uncle on her dad's side. Okay, so the guy that hit her, there was him and his friend were in the guy's truck. The guy had already had, hey, thank you. The guy already had his license taken away, multiple DUIs and everything, right? He got his friend in the beginning to lie and say that the friend was driving, which he wasn't. Okay. The friend ended up coming out and saying, hey, no, I wasn't driving. He was driving, because the guy that owns the truck that was actually driving filed for bankruptcy and all this stuff. So his friend couldn't get any like money for insurance, for medical bills and stuff like that. Like, it's a whole thing. I'd have to read these text messages from the mom. So he ended up pleading guilty, went to jail. Okay. But before he pled guilty, at every hearing or anything that he had to be at, he magically had a seizure and couldn't make it. So everything got pushed off for like 2 years because he always kept coming up with this medical emergency. There's no, the doctors haven't diagnosed him with anything or whatever, but then he ended up pleading guilty. Went to it's not a county jail. What is it? I don't want to say the name because then that'll give away the area I live in. An area jail, not like a big prison, but an area jail thing. He is pulling the same bullshit that Kohberger's pulling now. The judge granted it because he wanted to take back his plea. The judge granted it because I just talked to her yesterday. I texted her. And he's out right now. The judge let him out of jail. And I know, I don't know if she's like a cousin or like a second niece or something like that. I don't know. But I know a family member, and I had asked her about all this stuff, and she's like, oh, he's lying. He doesn't have that. She goes, he's drunk all the time. Like, it's just, he's lying about stuff because he can't handle being in jail. So now they have to go through a whole new trial. And I'm just like, And I'm really close with my friend's second daughter. So me and her are super close. But I'm just it's yeah. And I was telling my husband last night, I'm like, "What's up with everybody trying to get out of jail? Like, what the hell is going on right now?" He literally murdered her. I have to go by where her car went into the ditch because he, like, T-boned her in the driver's side. The mom sent me pictures. Literally folded the car in half. That's how fast he was going. He ran a stop sign and folded this car in half. I have to go by it every day when I go over to town. I'm just like so it's more of these men can't freaking handle being in jail. I know that's what it is.
For the FBI was getting search warrants for a decade before this because we all knew where this was going, but the FBI was doing it at that point.
So how does he have a claim?
So it reversed. It reversed the conviction because the conviction was based on the phone records, and the Supreme Court said, "Hey, you should have had a probable cause search warrant, and you didn't." The phone records went away, so they had to retry Carpenter and prove the case without the phone records, which luckily they had a ton of evidence and they were able to do. So that's the first one is. Should law enforcement have reasonably obtained a search warrant? And this is my hang up on the Kohberger case. And the answer is so simple. If law enforcement would have written a search warrant for what they were doing with IGG, it doesn't hurt anything. We can seal search warrants. I don't have to release it. I'm going to go back to my undercover days. We did a lot of cartel cases. I was a cop in Arizona, so we had a lot of cartel cases on the border. We used to steal cars to wire them with GPS because we needed to get access on the car to get our GPS in there, right? So we would literally order the key from the manufacturer, and we would go steal cartel members' cars, and then we would plant the GPS in it, and then we'd recover it and give it back to them. It was a great scam. We wrote search warrants to ourselves so that we documented what we were doing and there was transparency with legal oversight on our actions. When we allow the FBI to go through back doors and to kind of trick the system, and if you ask them, why didn't you write a search warrant to GED?
Well, here's the this is gonna blow your mind too. This is a completely different topic, sidebar. My son's best friend, he just turned 17 a couple months ago. He's coming home from work. It's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Not drunk, not on any rugs or anything. He zoned out and ran a stop sign and killed 2 little boys. One was 10 and I think the other one was 8. He goes for trial on September 2nd. He literally zoned out. Like, I took his family, like, food and stuff like that, and I was just sitting there talking to his mom, and she told me everything. He he got out of his car or his truck 'cause he had a big truck. He went and, went onto the driver's side to try to help the dad, and the dad said, My sons." He goes, "Man," he goes, "Sir," he goes, "there's only one boy." Come to find out, so the little one, the youngest one was ejected, he died on impact, and then the oldest boy, he hit him so hard that he went into it was like an SUV, so, like your second row seating, you can just get 2 headrests, and then you got the trunk. He went up and over the seat. Come to find out, the father is notorious for not buckling up and not making his sons buckle up. So hopefully that plays a part also in this. Um, the 17-year-old, he found the oldest boy. He said he found him in the back. Um, he's not getting like a life sentence or anything because I didn't know this. So in my state, the how do I want to put it? If you turn 17, like let's say I just turned 17 yesterday and I went out and was driving and I unalived somebody with my vehicle, I would not get tried as an adult because I'm too far away from being 18. So if anything, he might go to juvie, or what we're really praying for is like house arrest and his driver's license suspended because we all can work together and get him back and forth to work. That's not a problem. But that's what we're hoping for. So hopefully this kid's a good kid. I'm telling you, he is super smart. He helps my son with his math. Like, but when my son and this boy are together, I always get on him. I'm like, who's got the brain cell today? You know what I mean? Like, they're idiots when they get together. But I don't want this ruining his life because he has got a great future ahead of him. But yes, I feel bad for the family, but I'm also pissed off at the family for what they're telling other people. They're lying about what their plans were to do. They weren't even gonna go after him because they're like the huge Bible thumpers. they believe everything happens for a reason kind of thing, and they forgive easy. That's the type of people that they put off. No, that's not what they're doing. So I'm just like, no. But yeah,
GD. Well, we didn't write the search warrant because they wouldn't have given us the info.
I think it was Heritage. Heritage.
Well, it was Match and Heritage, so both of them. So the idea there is, man, if they reverse that, and then you get Steve Nye, and you talk about somebody who should not have been involved with this case. If you guys haven't seen his, you know who Steve is?
Jeff Nye?
Jeffrey Nye. Sorry,
Yeah,
Jeffrey
yeah.
Nye.
Okay.
Yeah.
He did an interview in August with Fox News. You guys have to go watch this interview, and he explains the
I think he
idea.
actually told us in purpose because Christy Dawn asked him, "What do you worry about?" And he said the same thing.
Who?
it is.
And yeah,
Oh,
I've
yeah.
always I've worried about it's not so much him explaining because I agree with him. The entire case was hinged on the IGG. It's what he says towards the end when he says, and usually with these type of things, we can argue inevitable discovery. And what inevitable discovery is the Carpenter case. Yeah, we have these phone records and it helped put the case together, but take the phone records out, inevitably we still would have discovered all this stuff and we can prove the case. And that's why Carpenter is still in prison today, even though those records got thrown out.
Especially considering it went to Othram first and they found the right tree. They were on the wrong branch. And Leah Larkin herself testified in the Franks hearing that eventually it would have led to him.
100%. 100%. The problem is Jeffrey Nye on Fox TV during that interview said, we didn't even argue inevitable discovery because there was nothing that applied for it. And I'm like, dude, shut up. What are you saying? More importantly than even what Othram found, we have to remember on November 29th, Washington State University identified Bryan Kohberger and the vehicle, realized that he just swapped his plates for Washington plates, and notified Moscow PD. The idea that Bryan Kohberger would have been completely absent of this investigation minus IGG is absurd. All they had to do was follow up on credible leads. That's it. That's all they had to do.
Okay.
Yeah, because they had that.
Okay. So
there was that body cam footage of I do it here. I didn't know you can't do it. He was gonna make like a left-hand turn or something, and he put his car on the other side of the white line. Bitch, I do that shit. I do it all the time because I'm a fucking impatient person. And then that lady cop had pulled him over, like it did in and she informed him that's illegal, you can't do that. And I'm like, that's fucking stupid because if I'm gonna sit here and wait for these slow ass people to drive by, I'm gonna go. I ain't gonna wait longer. What was this bug? Let me see. That FBI tip is book as fuck. They have that, and then was it the apartment complex security officer or something? Recognized his car in the parking lot, and I think that's how they got led to his apartment. I'm not saying that's how he was found because we know that's not how he was found. And then with the trash, the DNA that they got from the trash, as long as you put, I looked it up. I can't remember if we have them here. I think the only ones we have here that are easements that public can use for where I am is our alleys and our little villages. I live in an area that's all villages. But as long as you put, and then like, this is how I explain it to my son, my 17-year-old. Every state has a capital. Every county has a capital. That's how I told him. Because, the bigger cities in the county are usually, like the capital of the county. It sounds stupid. But in the capital of my county, when they do like cleanup, like you can put whatever you want to the curb and they'll come around and take it. It'd be dressers, mattresses, whatever. If it goes to the curb, okay, so get this. If it goes to the curb, it's considered public property. Okay. But if I'm driving by and I see a dresser out to the curb getting ready for, fall cleanup or spring cleanup, I can't take that because it becomes proper. It's, how do I say it? It's public property, but it's only property of the city, which is stupid and I don't get it. But so like their trash can, I don't know about you guys, but like if I put my trash to the curb for every Monday, because we have Monday pickups, it's no longer mine and the cops are allowed to go through it. That's what happened in Pennsylvania. That's how they got it because it's considered public property. Let me see here. Anything discarded is free. True. Cops can legally walk into your front yard if unfenced and open your trash can and consider discard. Yep, that's what I was just talking about. I wish my county did that. Oh, you just said. Yeah, I know. It's like a whole stupid thing. But that's how they got the DNA. So it's considered a public property. So they can go through it. That's
Yeah. I think that we're on the same page.
And I'm not saying I ever think this thing gets reversed. What I'm saying is if you guys, as the victims in the case, in all of the victims' families, if you're not being told, hey, this could be 5, 6, 8, 10 years before this thing works itself out in the criminal justice system, you're being misled.
If it's, let's see, it's not yours in your front yard. If that was true, somebody should have taken my damn trampoline that I've been trying to get rid of because none of the kids use it anymore and I've been trying to get rid of it and nobody wants it. There's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. $50, $25. Take it. It's yours. I wish somebody would take off with it. I wouldn't even care.
Carpenter case, well, that was a 2011 arrest. That case came down in 2018. And that's just the appeals process. That's not even the initial case. So I think we're in for a very long ride on this. I think there's a lot of things that are going to still happen. I don't know that he's going to get his post-conviction relief. I think they're anticipating that. All that does is now it forces it into an appellate review. And it's the appellate review that I worry about.
Do you think that'll...
I guess I'm not understanding that point either. How does a post-conviction relief force it to an appellate court? Because he won't even get a hearing. His argument is nothing but ineffective counsel, which was...
We bought it, or my husband bought it for the kids for one Christmas. They used it like maybe 2 summers and they haven't gotten back on it. My neighbor though, I used to be best friends with her. Her husband came over. He's like, "Hey, our son, da 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 da, wants to know if he can get on your trampoline." I was like, no, just in case he gets hurt. I don't allow anybody that's not in our family on the trampoline or in our pool. So I know
asked in the plea questionnaire that he answered extensively to, as well as life in prison isn't what I thought it was going to be. And I was, quote unquote, threatened by the idea of death row. There's no other meat.
Hair in Ethan's hand.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Clumps of hair, which we know is completely fabricated. That's not reality. And his own defense, Ruth Ballard, testified on the 23rd of January that it was consistent with Ethan's own hair. So he can't say that that's exculpatory because obviously the prosecution didn't withhold that from them. So that doesn't work out either. So I guess I'm not understanding from how we get to, he's not even going to get a hearing. Mark my words. Let's say that I'm wrong. He gets a hearing. How does that throw it into an appellate when he's not asking for his plea waiver to be removed? He's asking for his guilty plea to be removed.
He's not a lawyer, yeah.
I'm sorry.
He's an officer trying to help us.
Please, if you don't know.
No, I get it. I would be so frustrated. In fact, I would be like, just please release the guy. The only thing I ask.
That's why they won't talk to us.
That's how I feel. Just release. Let's just release him.
Yeah, they won't talk to us because these are the kind of questions that we give to Thompson, and Thompson just his eyes start darting.
But I don't think that it's not an unfair question. Like you said, I don't know that Cy has the answer, but that's what Olivia's asking is really the question. I mean,
here's the thing that we have to keep in mind. The post-conviction relief that he's seeking right now is going to go before Hitler. And I agree with you 100%, Olivia. He's going to turn it down. He's not even going to get a hearing. He can appeal that. This is where Garza versus Idaho comes in. He can say, hey, Hitler's already jaded on this. He's part of the problem. I need the ladder side of that initial team to look at this. It's a long road. They're going to have to file their stuff just right. At some point, he's going to have to get a real attorney to get on board. All I'm saying is if nobody's telling you guys that this is possible, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying it's possible. That they're not prepping you guys. The same thing about, hey, if we take this plea deal, we can bring closure to this case. No, it just
exactly that. They told us the opposite. They said, if you guys go with Steve and go for the death penalty, you're going to have hell to pay. But if you just go with old Thompson over here, all your problems go away. And he pleads to it, and you all just go riding into the sunset. And now they're all like, I didn't think he could appeal.
Hashing old news.
Yeah. What's that?
Hashing old news.
Well,
that's Dad.
We're still talking to people that are calling me. Like I just had Randy, he couldn't appeal. And we're like,
Well, because it's
That
not
was-
an appeal. It's post-conviction relief, and it's going to be denied. Because here's the thing. He could have requested relief in the form of having his plea waiver removed, which would have been a hell of a lot more likely for a judge to say, yeah, sure, whatever, have your appeals back. But he didn't do that. He asked for his guilty plea removed, which logically makes no sense, which is why I think Ann Taylor's not behind this at all.
I read something that Ann Taylor signed an affidavit today.
Asking for the relief that he's asking for isn't asking if they're trying to buy more time.
Oh, look.
Give him a route to appeals. Say, just remove my plea or just remove my appeals waiver. But you're trying to remove your guilty plea, which is never going to happen because of the questionnaire that Hippler gave him. It was incredibly
he's only
expensive.
31?
And everything that he
Bryan Kohberger's only 31 years old. Dude, he looks like he's in his late 30s. Sorry, I just
brings up
I
in his
made a
motion
comment earlier.
was covered. So
I
unless
completely-
you're just like feigning amnesia, and unless he truly is just even more stupid than I thought that he was, and I truly thought that this man was stupid, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, and
It's
understand
like a toddler throwing a tantrum.
them turning down this first motion for the post-conviction relief is another log on the fire for the bigger appeal issue. We're not done with these motions being filed. I think in the next 60, 90 days, like I'm saying, we're going to see a lot more start coming out of the woodwork. This is just step one to get that. There is a very
That's step one.
there's a very intricate, very well planned out road that
Sorry,
the
go right
defense
my
is
mic.
going to go down here. We're just getting started.
Yeah, the minute they thought they were going to do a plea, they probably had a whole exit strategy to be like, this is what we're going to do. And they sold that to him.
So he's not selling out Ann right now. Ann's part of this.
And me, this is just
I can't
total.
find anything
You could just
about Ann Taylor signing. Let me see here. Who wants to take back his plea deal? Has received more than 10,000 over the past year in donations to his prison trust account. What? Okay, we're gonna look at this. Sorry. Sidebar. There's pictures. It's just prison trust account according to the court filings, where he is asking for Judge Stephen Harper to appoint him a new lawyer. Most of the donations came from his mother. A total of 19 other people donated over the past year, according to the transaction summary between the dates of July 22nd or 22nd, 2025 and July 22nd, 2026. Kohberger still J Block, Idaho, blah, 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 blah. Okay, hold on. Let me see. Admit fee. Does it say who? Oh, okay. Oh, wait, where am I going here? Okay. So I said a Kiosk Advanced Technology LLC Group expense. Mary Kohberger. I'm assuming that's his mom. She only put in $30. And then she put on 120, 45, $107 in a commissary sales. He bought $107 worth of shit. Oh, and there's 119 right there too. In May, let's see where we're at here. Mary, another 120, 43 out of his commissary. Mary, 120, 118 out of there. Oh, I wish we could see more because this number is not reflecting this number. That's crazy though. Is there more? I don't think there's more. No. But yeah, damn. Damn. Okay, hold on.
talk.
That's
Just
Zai's
spitballing.
theory.
We're
That's
spitballing.
Zai's theory. That
Yeah, we're just spitballing right here.
Yeah.
See, I've always thought the same thing, honestly. I'm like,
Yeah.
how do we know that she's not in on this? Say, hey, we're going to do this. Then after a few months, you're going to file,
Because it takes
inadequate,
more.
Ineffective.
It takes
ineffective
more than
counsel.
just an attorney saying, yes, I was ineffective. Like you're looking at motions. You're looking at the evidence that was, attempted to be suppressed. You're looking at, there's so much more that goes into it than just an attorney being like, yeah.
See, I don't think that she was an ineffective attorney for the simple fact, look at her track record with the high profile cases. I think she's won them all, I think. I'm gonna stand, I don't know if I want to stand 10 toes down on it yet, but I'm still going with the theory of she rejected him.
I
I mean,
I could
she's
have done
essentially
more.
going to lay down on the knife, right?
I'm still stuck on what Cy started this whole conversation with, and
Nope,
Christy wasn't
didn't
here,
happen
but
yet.
that if they had done
There
more,
was $10,000 though, over a year span put on his commissary account by his mom and 19 other people. We looked at that.
digging and processing with the digital stuff, that Cy believes that there's evidence that Kohberger was in the living room at King Road based on the data he had. Like, did you guys know that? Did I just miss that
I knew he
somewhere?
was following these girls and stalking them online, but they refused. Nobody investigated if there was an online connection. There's
No.
Are we talking
No,
about that
no one,
night?
no one knew
That
that.
night he was in the living room?
No.
No, Cy thinks
No.
previously,
Yeah,
based on the
no,
data that
that
he
is
has
from
from the
press
defense.
So
that
fucking
accurately got
terrifying.
pointed out because we just skirted on past it.
Sorry, I've been thinking about that the whole
No,
time.
no. You're
Me-
I
right.
didn't, I'm like, did I
That's
miss that somewhere and you guys secretly knew, or I didn't?
Well, I'm going to go a little bit off script here too, and I could be wrong. And this is where I was asking about the VICAP report and all the questions to family and friends, which I can't find any reporting being done.
never happened.
The little bit that I have
Never
dug
happened.
into, I also believe it's possible that Bryan Kohberger could have been at that house at certain times and not necessarily even been noticed. I think he could have blended in very easy. A large group of guys specifically, but a large group of college kids hanging out in, near, around the house may not have triggered what everybody thinks necessarily. I'm not saying that there's evidence of him breaking in the middle of the night and snooping around the house. I believe there's evidence of him late at night being at, near, or in the house, but it's also at high traffic times in that general area. And I believe he could have blended in really easy. The other thing I'm going to throw back to Steve that is just mind numbing to me is there is a pattern of him looking at multiple houses. I believe he's a serial killer. I believe that was the intent here, was he was going to start his serial killer spree, if you will. And one thing you have to understand about the psychology of serial killers is part of what drives them, part of what fuels what they're doing is the randomness of selecting victims, watching victims and thinking in their head what they could do. That is a huge piece of serial killers. And I think he
No, this
had
wasn't
multiple
random.
targets throughout the entire Moscow Pullman area. And when you look at his phone at night, that's what he's doing. He is going around hitting these different houses, watching people, interacting with them potentially. I cannot find any history where somebody's taken the phone records and mapped out all these locations and then gone to law enforcement reporting to say, hey, what reports of a prowler, suspicious person, stalking type behavior? Like, just give us all the calls for service in these different areas and see, can we match up? Hey, he keeps going back to this other house on the northeastern side of Moscow. Oh, weird. The neighbor across the street has called in 3 times about a white car. Like, how does that change this investigation dramatically? And these are some of those things that I keep saying are just completely absent from this investigation. And the only reason I'm saying all of this part, Olivia, is I want him to get the appeal. I say, let's bring it on, get a new trial, but let's do it right. Let's get the right investigators involved, and let's go show the world just how depraved this guy was. Let's bring back the death penalty, make it happen. I worry that they don't do that and they fall back on this. Well, he's not going to get the appeal. We're not worried about it. Oh, crap. He made the first hurdle. He's not going to make the second hurdle. We're okay. We're okay. And then all of a sudden, we find ourselves in a position 5 or 6 years from now that there is a real possibility of a new trial, and they haven't done anything to patch the holes from the first round. And that's where I've been very vocal with anybody who will listen. The time is now to start this investigation over, to do it, just document it, get it done. It's not a crazy expense.
This comes back to the whole conversation and taking sides about if the house should have been knocked down. I don't think it should have yet. I know the owner needed to make money. I get that. But I don't even know how I want to say this. I don't think it should have been knocked down. Granted, it would have sat there for almost a year later. Oh no, it sat there a while. It'd have been more than a year. Empty. But you have the house left the way it was. And if they have to go back, hopefully they did that like digital mapping thing. They like I can't think of what it's called, but they set it up and it's like a camera and it scans the rooms and makes a 3D or model or image or whatever it is of that. That's what I think they did. I'm pretty sure they did that. Like, that's going to be the only saving grace. It was a bold move, is what it was. I was so mad. I'm like, what if these jurors, like, because we all thought it was going to trial. That's what we thought. So I'm like, what if the jurors want to go through and take a freaking field trip? And then, boom, he pleads. Or takes the plea deal. Yeah, true.
I mean, we've done everything at our own expense. I probably have about 50,000 invested in my Kohberger nonsense at this point. Like, there's people like myself and other people and stuff that you guys are doing that you can do this the right way. I think it's all about getting a mental mindset of where this thing can go, being very real and truthful with the victims' families to explain, hey, here's a number of scenarios. And even if it's a 1% chance, it's something that we need to discuss. And hey, how do you combat this? If lightning strikes twice here, how do we make sure this guy never walks? Because that, at the end of the day, is the real goal here. This is why I've been so outspoken, is we can never
The
allow
amount of evidence
somebody like this to walk, especially if we
Four
Even-
murders. The FBI told me, they looked at me like, Steve, I know you're concerned, you know that, but do you think somebody with 4 murders is going to walk? We have to do everything perfectly. And it was crazy that when you told me that you felt like there was more mistakes on that side, I was just like, and that was the side I was almost going with. If the other families would have told me, kick Kaylee out and you guys go do your own thing, I would have, but they were like, no, we want you to be the loudmouth and pretend like we don't like you. But the truth is, if you're not here, we're all in fucking trouble because now we got to get our heads out of the sand, you know?
See?
Yeah.
So you don't think it was just
make sure I hit your points there.
Sorry, what were you going to say, Christy?
so you don't think it was just sometimes I think that people just put too much thought into it, and I think, look, he happened to spot one of the girls at some point in time. He started following them to their house, started watching them, found out that it was, a house full of girls, perfect for him, score everything that he was, really needing and wanting. And he, started planning on, murder, and, obviously had his knife and whatnot. And finally that night he just pulled the trigger and went in. I mean, like I don't understand why everybody thinks it's so elaborate. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well,
They never
because
are.
that
They're the
house
simplest
is a
thing.
dead end road surrounded by other houses. Okay.
yeah.
But here's the thing, Mom. He decided back before he ever moved to Washington that he was going to kill someone. He decided way back when that he was going to kill multiple someones if he was able
Back
to
in
continue
Pennsylvania.
getting away with it.
Oh.
Okay. He
Why
walked
did he
into
come
that
to us?
house after 1. He didn't walk out after 4. He didn't anticipate this. He thought he'd be way better at it than he was. But part of his game is that he's a hunter. So it gave him an adrenaline boost to see them out in public, to follow them without them knowing, to do these things until that was no longer giving it, that drug hit wasn't enough. Until
100%.
it just kind of became this. He knew he had to do this. There was no getting out of it. He had a separate bank account with money that he had put in there that he hadn't touched, and he was broke as a joke. It's not like he had a ton of money to spare. Starts using it in cash.
Fantasy fun.
Fantasy 101. Because at the end of the day,
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Oh no, this is the girl talking. That is Kaylee. Kaylee Gonzalez's sister. This is her mom and dad. She was one of the Idaho 4 victims. This girl ripped him a new ass when he took the plea. I mean, she did. And then the mom right here. And oh, I love this mom. I knew I liked her from when she said, "You may have gotten straight A's in school, but you're gonna get straight D's in jail." Like, my son was eating when he heard her say broke as in jail. Yeah, she said that in the courtroom. It was awesome. And then the dad, Steve, literally, instead of having the podium like face the judge, he turned it to face Kohberger so he could talk directly to him. Really? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's go.
He's just an addict. And the drug that he's chased has always just been different. First it was health and workout and this and that. And then it was, you know, this grandiose that he's healing his, you know, autoimmune disorders because he's so smart and this and that. And at one point it was heroin even. He's an addict that has always been obsessive and addicted to something. And he became addicted to this idea of chasing this high of killing someone. It wasn't personal to him.
100%. You couldn't have said that better. 100%. I agree with you. And if he ever does walk, he will kill again.
Yeah, of course he will.
We know they investigated him back in Pennsylvania, and it didn't go anywhere, but they definitely were concerned.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
he
I think-
escalated his predatory behaviors until they no longer fulfilled his needs.
So I didn't get Thorn Road right, but was that close? Was that
If he gets released and he walks again, he's probably gonna do what this guy Sai was talking about on his history with the non-consensual meeting with another woman, like the graping while the woman knows what's going on and hurting her and stuff like that. I'll bet you
closer than Payne's little loop?
Oh, stop it.
That's terrible. It's about, if you look at where Thorn is and the road comes down, it kind of doglegs, 95 doglegs around.
Okay.
Dogleg, it starts to go straight again. It's
No,
the
let's go, Rob.
third dirt road after that one. There's a farm that sits right on 95 right there. And that's where he worked his way back up to Thorn, and then he came back down. So he goes across up to Thorn Creek and then back down around, and he actually shoots out back onto, I think it's
That was
195.
definitely close. And
It's not
AI helped me
close,
because
Dad.
I was trying to pull the timestamps all together with the 448, and 448 was my source of truth.
That he was stopped there. Cy Ray said that he was stopped there for about 10 minutes. We never anticipated that long of a gap that he was stopped there.
Oh,
We
yeah.
always
Yeah.
Ooh, I bet that's where he hid the
So
knife.
the timeline that we had
Gone farther down than he's probably
Yes.
needs to be.
Yeah. So it's
From
not
the
it's not
house-
his fault.
From the house to where he stopped, I want to say it was like 14.5 miles. And you saw the rate of speed he was leaving the neighborhood at. I have no reason to believe he's not driving 65, 70 probably on the road. There's a solid 10 to maybe 15, depending on how fast he drove. And again, the part I can't stress enough is he goes back to that exact same spot where he stopped the next night.
Yeah, because he dumped his stuff right
He
there.
did?
And came
Yeah,
back
he
where
goes back.
said.
Holy
And
sh-
then,
And then goes through the Snake River.
And then as soon as he's there, he goes down to the Snake River, and he doesn't spend any time. He goes to Snake River, and then immediately he's back up 195.
So you think he left the stuff there and went back and got it the next day and then dumped it in the
Yes.
river?
Yeah, and I'll give you guys my theory.
Oh,
I would be really
That's
interested in your
news to me.
feedback here. But looking at everything that I've seen, I believe Maddie was the target.
There you go. There's your
Maddie
bombshell.
is who he interacted with earlier. There's some other things that kind of support that. I hope a lot of this comes out at some point. I think
So, if he was going there for Maddie, all the other three were just collateral damage. There you go, American, your bombshell. It was Maddie, because remember, Kaylee wasn't supposed to be there. Kaylee didn't live there anymore. Mom said that she drove down that weekend because she wanted to show the girls her new, was it Range Rover she had? And then they were going to go to a party or whatever. And then she was like Dylan's date for something or whatever. But here it is.
Well, sorry to know, but why do you say some things to support that? Is that the cell phones?
yeah, there's a lot more collisions between Brian's phone and Maddie's phone than any of the other victims. And what I'm saying about collision is they start to occupy the same space at the same time. And there is a little bit more of a pattern to that.
Xana, to me, I don't think she's not as pretty. I hate to say this, but she's not as pretty as Kaylee and Maddie. Kaylee and Maddie, they seem like they're sweet girls, right? I just think they're a little too fake. The hair, the makeup, it just screams fake for me. But I forgot where I was going with this. But no, I don't think it would have been Xana. I think it would have been Kaylee or Maddie. Because one of them, he followed on Instagram or X or something. I don't remember. It was one of the girls.
Than with the other victims.
And
And
what do you mean, though? I know you don't have all the data in front of you, but like
Like
in different locations, or like
I
where
want to
would
say
they?
August 28th, but I could be wrong if that's a Sunday. The first Sunday after the full week of school starting in August, it's Maddie's phone that I think interjects with his phone in Pullman, and this is the apartment complex right next to Brian's. And they start off at like the student center at WSU, and then they move up to an apartment complex. And I think there was an interaction there that could have been the first crossing of paths. There's multiple times around the house that A&W over time, but consistently it's more with Maddie than the other roommates at that point.
He dips into his fantasy fund and Kaylee's up here. And it was like that's the moment he's going to plan this murder, and she's still down there and Kaylee's up here hanging out with us. So I totally agree. But I can't say that in a forum.
And you guys know better than I would. I think the fact that Kaylee is in the same bed as Maddie that night is somewhat of a fluke. Like, right, that wasn't something he could have
See?
predicted.
Told you.
So what
I told you. I said it earlier. He was not expecting Kaylee to be there. Because with him watching, he knew after a week of watching, he knew Kaylee wasn't there anymore. He probably was there when she was moving her shit out or whatever. See?
believe starts as a targeted one victim thing, very quickly rolls into two. I think Xana interrupted that. And I think there's
I told you.
That's the scream.
Well, the screen, but also there's really good. So before, in my prior life, before I started doing a lot of the phone stuff, I did a lot of homicide stuff. I was a blood spatter expert. There is excellent blood spatter in this house that, in my opinion, Xana not only interrupts it, but he chases Xana through a big portion of the house. And that's where Xana comes into, and then Ethan comes into. And to your guys' point of the physical side of this, he's just exhausted by.
Yeah, I think he went there, like what we talked about with his corn stuff. I think he went there to do that to Maddie, right? I don't think he went there to take somebody. I think he went to fulfill a fantasy. And he got caught off guard with 3 extra people. Because if you think about it, Xana's room, the hallway. Okay, so Xana's room is on the same first floor, second floor, whatever floor that fucking living room is on. It's on that floor. It's down the hallway, right? So let's say he's been inside the house before. He knows where all the girls' rooms are. Oh, I forgot about Dylan and Beth. I forgot about those 2 girls. So think about where all their rooms are. He was taking a chance. Let's say Kaylee wasn't there. Xana was in her bed sleeping. So was Ethan. Beth's down in her bedroom. And then Dylan's in her room, okay? It's late at night. He saw the lights go off, whatever. Okay, hold on. He was taking that chance that Dylan. Hold on a second. Sorry, my dog keeps ringing his bells, and I had to tell my son to take the dog outside. Anyways, he was taking that chance of doing his fantasy quotation marks to Maddie, but Maddie's or Dylan's room was right below Maddie's, and Dylan says she heard a thud. Oh wait, or was that when she was in Beth's room? I can't remember. Anyways, one of the kids are being weird. Anyways, so he was taking that chance of Dylan hearing what was going on if Kaylee wouldn't have been there and Xana would have been sleeping. That's what he thought he was going to happen. But no, Xana foiled his plan. Yeah, he was planning on leaving. I really think it was just to fulfill his fantasy.
The time he sees Dylan. And that's why Dylan today. And this changes his plan. And this is really important for the investigators to wrap their head around. The route back was going to be the same route that he took there. I believe he was going to go right back out on Indian Hills, up north to that little crossover road, and then come back north of the airport back in, because he can get all the way to his house and never pass a video camera other than the Indian Hills one. But because 911 is being called, he drops down to the south. So yeah, I think it went from 1 to 2 to 4 very, very quickly. Then there's the interruption, which completely throws him off his plan. He doesn't know what to do, but he's smart enough with everything he has on the criminology side, which, by the way, I completely agree with you, Olivia. He is a terrible criminal. His PhD
Mom
program
has
is
a
not working.
box of rocks.
Yeah, but he is smart enough
Oh
to
my
know they
kids are
may be
smart.
looking for a white car. I shouldn't go driving back up to campus driving a white car with
Yeah.
a car full
And,
of them.
and the path that you were talking about where he went, I think Indian Hills Road, everything he did was misdirection. So he didn't want to come in from west to east. He wanted to come from east to west. He was playing the same game. So if he did get caught, he wanted it to appear like he was coming from the opposite direction of where he really came from.
All right. I do have to go. But I
Okay.
just wanted
All right, guys. Man, that was
Brian,
awesome. I really
having
appreciate
such
Cy.
such
And
an
I
open
and Brian, thank you for putting this
For sure.
together.
I
It
just
wasn't a
realized that.
gotcha. It was organic. Talking with people. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
thank you for
I
honestly
appreciate all
having
of
such
you.
a platform where I do genuinely feel like we have said more in this than we've ever really said publicly.
He's
And
not
that's honestly
I don't even
100%
know how
due
he
to you and how you choose to, you know, be a journalist and the open environment that you foster. And Ray, I just wanted to say thank you. You know,
We'll all
it is what it is.
speak
I
well of
understand
you.
what you're saying, and I appreciate your time more than anything else. Just being able to, you know,
Well-
talk with us and meet on a playing field together.
My little 5 minutes that I have, I'm literally going to go to bed with nightmares now because of the hearing him say that he was in the living room and then hearing him say that he went back to that same spot the next night. I mean,
This
I'm
is
like,
his thought. This is him thinking out loud.
you know, but that just terrifies me. I'm like, oh my gosh, and that he.
Mom, there's literally not a single thing scary about him. He's the biggest pansy coward
He's a
ass that you could
pussy.
ever
He's a
imagine.
pussy.
The
Like,
girls
literally,
were
like,
scared.
Well, of course,
yes, the
because
girls were scared
they were
because of his
vulnerable.
illusion, Mom, and he doesn't
Monsters
have an
prey
illusion
on vulnerable
anymore.
people.
Yeah, and same thing, Brian. Thanks for having me on. And I'll throw this out, Steve. I talked about it earlier, and Olivia, it goes to you as well. And if you're okay with it, Steve, I'll just respond back to that. Yeah, I have your email on, I think, the questions that they sent over, that Courtney sent over. I'll respond back to you. I'll give you guys my contact and my phone number 24/7. Anything you guys ever need, or if you need to bounce anything off, let me know. I'm more than happy to sit down anytime, have as many conversations as you want. If there's anything you guys are doing foundation wise or trying to promote some of the change you guys are talking about, I'm super interested. Let me know how we can help if we can. You know, I can't emphasize enough, we are really trying to push this as a really intense training for law enforcement on how to never fall for this trap again and how to prevent a lot of these things. We're getting an excellent feedback on that. So rest assured, the overwhelming majority of the law enforcement community that I'm working with sees where you guys are coming from. Their heart goes out to you guys. The victimization that you guys have been re-victimized by the process is one of the goals I've always had of trying to prevent. Like, how can I? And that's one of the things I got involved in this case on. It wasn't to ever be Bryan Kohberger's defense expert. It was to keep my ethics and say, look, criminal investigations can never look like this. And if those of us who see it and understand it don't stand up and say something, who does? So again, any pain or suffering that I have caused or helped happen with this nonsense, please understand, Anne has never spoken for me. Things that Anne says is not what I said. But my apologies for that if it's caused you guys heartburn, and anything I can do to be of assistance, I'm yours. So for what that's worth.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
All
We do
right.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you,
Thank you so
guys.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Have a
much.
good
Thank
night,
you.
guys.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, Brian. It was good to see
Bye,
you.
Christy.
All right, so I really appreciate Cy and Olivia and Steve for coming on the show. And again, I know it was kind of a unique format and not something I've ever really done before, but look, they wanted to ask Cy questions and he agreed to it, and I thought.
Okay, that's pretty much it. That's freaking crazy. I didn't know that he stopped at that spot for like 10 minutes. I didn't know that he drove the same route back. And I want to say it was Maddie that he was following on like an Instagram or something. Isn't my dog so cute? This is Pugsley. He's a puggle. But God, I hope this goes to trial. It all just blows your mind. It's just crazy. But I do think he went there because if his phone, his timeline overlaps with Maddie's, more than anybody else is in the house. I do feel like that was him stalking her. Um, he was not expecting for Kaylee to be there and Xana to come walking out. I think she would walk out the kitchen or something like that. But so much to think about. But all right, I am gonna go hang out with the kids for a while before their dad gets home. So